Hello, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, and our first story for today. I guess you're right. I'm a lazy, privileged woman. But before we begin, thanks for all your likes and subscriptions. Let's get started. Not all illnesses are visible. Not all chemotherapy patients lose their hair. Don't assume anything about anyone. Okay, now that I've gotten that out of the way, let me tell you about my recent Karen in the Wild interference. So as previously mentioned in another post of a more epic I Don't Work Here Lady, I'm a plus-size woman who happens to teach, important later, takes chemotherapy, and is in serious pain 24/7. But I'll be damned if I'll let that ruin my life or make me housebound. So a week ago, I was in Boston, Massachusetts with a group of friends. It was amazing. And even though two of us are best friends with ADA compliance needs, we managed to do a whole lot during our trip. We have some great friends who went slower for us, looked for places for us to rest, pushed us in our wheelchairs when needed, and didn't make us feel like freaks. I digress from my Karen story, but it's important that I say this to let you know I was in a chipper mood most of the time. So, we get to Logan 3 hours early. Totally unnecessary, but a friend was worried. I needed a wheelchair and the staff kindly got us one. They pushed me to our terminal and asked if it'd be okay for them to leave me with it since we were so early. They really aren't supposed to leave it, but kindly they did. My friends pushed me around, we got something to eat, did some touristy window shopping, and waited for our flight. The time came and we were the first to board due to my wheelchair status. After all were boarded, we get the first announcement, 2.5-hour delay, storm in Chicago. Note, O'Hare always seems to have bad weather. You can't get off the plane or you'll forfeit your agreement to fly today. Then another announcement 1.5 hours later. They'll try to rebook us where they can. My friends are freaking out, as I am. The staff sees me, a grown woman, crying and asks if I'm okay, to which I reply, I'm just in a lot of pain and I have to get home so I don't miss my chemo. Everyone else has their stories too. Sorry if I'm making a scene. Note, I was crying silently, and my friends, like everyone else, were grumbling. No Karen attitude. My chemo has to be on time or I get worse and become stiff as a board with horrible pain. Being cramped in a 737 sucks for all. The staff came back to us several times trying to get me home any way possible. There were several others who went to other seats trying to rebook their flights as well. We weren't alone. They came back so many times to all of the people they could because we ended up with a 6-hour delay, royally messing up so many people's plans. The storm hit Chicago and made its way to Boston while we sat. Not cool. Mother Nature, not cool. Apparently, due to the number of times they came back to us, regardless of the fact they were also working with others, Karen got it in her tiny little head that we somehow worked for American. Maybe it was our amazing ability to use our phones and the app to get text updates. Maybe it was our fault for taking the water when they gave it to everyone else. IDK. After about hour 3, I had to move. We were allowed to move freely as we were on the ground. Karen was a few seats back as I hobbled like a 100-year-old woman past her. She muttered, "So stad when staff gets all the privileges." I had no idea what she meant, so I assumed it wasn't for my ears. Moved back to the restroom. I had trouble getting into the room, not because of my size, but because I was in so much pain. A kind flight attendant noticed and asked if I was okay after I got out. I assured her that I was. She said they could help me if I needed next time. I declined, but thanked her. Apparently, Karen heard that too, and when I passed, she let out a huff and said, "Employment has its privilege." Again, I wasn't sure if I was her target. I sat down. At hour 4 of our wait to fly, I got up again and walked back to the restroom. I didn't need it, so I washed my hands. The flight attendant said I looked like I needed some water. Would I like some? I gratefully took it. Note, they had served water 2 times already to everyone. Not wanting to hold up the line any further, I walked back to my seat with the tiny half glass. Karen said, "Look, they give each other special treats." This time I know it's about me. I respond, "I'm unsure what you mean. People are buying snacks, and if you ask, you can get water too." She just huffed. I sat down. 2 minutes later, they offered water to everyone else again, and Biscoff cookies. After hour 6, we took off. Some in the cabin cheered. I had tears going down my cheek. I might make it. We get off flight number 1, and there was a delay in getting my wheelchair, even though they knew it was needed and called when we landed. No big deal. The staff were gracious and made sure that I had a seat, even requesting a man move out of the handicap chairs for me. Karen saw this. Her next flight gate was in the same area. She looked and pointed, but O'Hare's so loud I couldn't hear her. My wheelchair came and took me to my gate several down and around the corner. I tipped the guy as I always do because I sincerely couldn't walk that distance. Karen actually got up, walked over to me and said, "Well, aren't you just the Queen of Sheba?" My friends weren't around me at this point, and the guy who pushed me to my gate had long gone. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Not even close. I'm severely disabled and can't walk. I guess you can relate. You're severely ill too, I'm guessing." Her mouth opened wide and she covered it dramatically. She then returned my volley with one of her own. "You're not disabled, you're just fat. Fat, lazy employees get special attention, I guess. Humph." I replied, "I have zero clue and even less F's what you think about me. I don't work for any airline. Never have. I'm an educator, so let me give you a lesson. Not all disabilities are visible. Not all people look as sick as they are. Learn this, it might come in handy." She said, "Well, I never." "You clearly work for them. They kept talking to you. You're lazy and privileged." I said, "Me and everyone else. Grow up, lady. And yes, I'm fat, but look at my legs and feet. Hell, look at my hands. See how they don't move easily? Yeah, it's painful. Go back to your life and leave mine a effing alone." I said this loud and firm enough to attract a little attention, but not so much that I looked insane. A kind family got up and sat next to me, leaving a space for my friend, as the other had put something on a different chair. I could see they were attempting to help. The woman just stared at Karen until she left. I smiled and said thank you. She gave me a thumbs up. My friends came back from McDonald's shortly after, and about half an hour later we got on the flight. That was also delayed for about an hour. I didn't get home in time for my chemo, and I had to move things around, and I'm now on a crap ton of other meds to deal with it, but it's nothing. We all have our crosses to bear. Mine is this. Karen's is stupidity, ignorance, and an unhealthy dose of narcissism. And our second story. Lady lost her mind when I wouldn't clean her mat. So, quick background. I live close enough to my mother that we do this CrossFit class together every Saturday. It's fun and we bond. The class is an hour long, and at the beginning we grab bats and weights. We tend to grab a few different types depending on the workout the guy assigns. You have to be early to this class because it's popular, and me and my mom grab spots in the back. The class fills up and all the regulars take their spots. There isn't much room, but there is space in the front. For the first half hour, everything is going well. Then this lady comes in. She walks in the center of the room and stares at us and goes to grab a mat. I head over to a station on the TRX and begin my set. When I come back, I see this lady's pushed my mat into the weights and has made herself a spot. My mom is livid, but I wave her off. Don't get me wrong, I'm annoyed, but it happens and I continue the class. 5 minutes later, our instructor gives us the next set of workouts. I finish my workout on the mat and see there's a free TRX. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a rope you attach to the wall and do different exercises with. As I'm pushing through a set, someone taps my shoulder. It's this lady. "You finished 10. I counted. Stop hogging." First, I did not. Secondly, our instructor has us go through the sets twice in a round, so I was planning to go through twice. Thirdly, there was a free one right next to me. I point out the free one and she rolls her eyes and says something snarky about how I wasn't being mindful of customers. She then demands that I show her how we are doing the workout. I kind of show her my form, and then Mike, the trainer, comes by. She smugly looks at me and says, "Good, someone is doing their job around here." I just shrug it off and try to finish my set in peace. I go back to my workout and don't have any problems with her till the end of class. At the end, our instructor hands us wipes for us to clean the mats before we return them. My mom was returning the weights while I was wiping the mats. As I'm wiping my mom's down, a mat is thrown at me and it lands in my hands. I'm on my hands and knees. I look up and it's this woman again. She's kind of smugly looking down at me, throws her wipe down and begins to walk away. I get up with her mat and hand it back to her. "Excuse me, that's not where you leave them." She says, "What? You're cleaning them? You need to clean mine." I said, "Yeah, just this one and mine." "What makes her special?" "She's my mom." "Well, that doesn't matter. It's your job to clean these." I was kind of floored at the idea I worked there only because I'm working on losing weight. I'm not obese, but I certainly don't have a trainer's body. "I don't work here." She says, "Stop being bratty. It's clear that you work here." "What? You clearly work here. I can see your uniform, plus you were helping that woman the whole time. For the record, the supposed uniform was black leggings and a black tank. So I pick up my mat and my mom's. I don't work here. Leave me alone. She then begins screaming the instructor's name, and he comes up with my mom right behind him. She's seen some stuff and was pretty much over this lady's crap. Mike, on the other hand, has no idea. He can tell from my face that I'm annoyed. What's going on? She says, "You need to fire this woman. She's refusing to clean my mat and spent the whole lesson ignoring me." Mike, at this point, understands my annoyance. She doesn't work here, but I can clean your mat. I also should tell you that we don't clean mats in the future. At this point, the lady huffs out and marches down the stairs. I think that's the end of it until my mom and I go down and see this woman screaming at the front desk. She sees me and then points. "Her! Get that brat fired!" She used brat way too much. The front desk guy's a pretty innocent kid, probably in high school. "She doesn't work here, ma'am." At this point, her face gets red, as red as it could be. She screams and then walks out. My mom made us wait inside till she left the parking lot. Probably for the best. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.